Good afternoon, everyone. They fought together as brothers in arms. They died together, and now they sleep side by side to them. We have a solemn obligation. Now, those are not my words, they're not your words. The words over there that are engraved into this memorial that I've been watching for the last hour. So I'd like to start by thanking you, Andy and Mike, for honoring that solemn obligation, for reminding us that freedom is not free, for reminding us that freedoms granted are not undifferentiated from freedoms earned, and for reminding us of the ultimate sacrifice that they gave everything in order to give us the option to have something. So thank you. So I have to introduce a living legend in the military, in the Greek American community and beyond. My friend, the Humane Hero, General Poppas. I say Humane Hero because those are not mutually exclusive. It is rare to have a hero. It is rarer to have a humane hero. It is rarer for that hero to retain and have their humanity grow in spite of what they see and what they accomplish. "20 years ago, I was an immigrant from London. And I find myself standing in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier at the age of 29 years old and 1 month, watching the changing of the guard. Very moving, especially for those who have studied history and understand what sacrifices have been given to give us the freedoms that we have. So I started thinking to myself, what was my grandfather doing when he was 29 years old and 1 month? Oh, October 1942. Oh, El Alamein, in a tank that got blown up, everyone killed except for him. Somehow he survived, somehow he made a success of his life, but he never forgot his roots. How lucky was I? Why me and not him? Why us, not them? Why? Fate? Faith? Destiny? All of the above, none of the above? Known unknowns? Unknown unknowns? So 3 weeks ago, when I said to General Poppas at Concordia, I told him this story, and I said to him, "General, why you and not them?" He looked at me straight in the eyes. "George, it was a matter of a few centimeters." So let's start at a few centimeters from death. And this man has run 100 miles of progressing in life. He's been a servant to democracy. He's been a servant to all we cherish. I'm not going to tell you a list of all his accomplishments because you can read about all those. What I will say is the essence of the man through my lens. 2 stories. One, a few months ago, we invited the general to speak to 30 interns from our group. He spoke to every single one of them. He didn't speak down to them or up to them. He spoke at them. He spoke to them. They all felt valued. He learned from them the way they learned from him. That's the human element. That was very nice to see. It was the empowerment culture, I believe, of his soul on display with young souls whose words from him can change the trajectory of their lives. I say it all the time, those who give are happier than those who take. Those who love are happier than those who hate. Second, I was blessed and fortunate enough to be invited to Fort Bragg, what was then Fort Bragg, it is now Fort Liberty, a year ago. Every person I met, to a person, and I met hundreds of people, from generals to soldiers to colonels to lieutenant colonels, they all stood with great pride and greater purpose. The ex-lost souls that have found themselves through the US Army stood with purpose. You can see the residue of lostness in them. And what was most special was, again, seeing how the young soldiers would react when the chief of chiefs, General Poppas, stopped by to say hello to them. It was a mixture of awe, respect, love, pride, and purpose. Now, I never went to university. I never studied formally, but I read. I studied informally. I studied people. I studied the world. I studied books. I read and I learned. For me to be here today in this most haloed of grounds, we have a solemn obligation. Introducing my friend, the General, is an impossible story. It's ultimately the American story. So with that, I would like to introduce the General, the Humane Hero. Thank you.
Absolutely humbling to hear such things. Madam Ambassador, thank you for being here today, and you honor us with your presence. And it is for me an incredible honor to join so many friends and other patriots that are here in the heart of our nation's capital. And as George identified, this is solemn ground. This monument is an icon to what, as a republic, what we're willing to commit ourselves to, and what as a nation we sacrificed for, and that's freedom. And I want to thank you once again for Mike and Andy for allowing me to be a part of this celebration, and really for recognizing the value of service, both as part of our Greek culture, then also part of the American society. And I'm especially lucky today to share this with my lovely bride. Without her love and support, none of this would be possible. So Bess, thank you for the honor of being your husband and for being your date this afternoon. I love you very much. But Mr. Logothetis, Mr. Georges, I want to thank you for your leadership that you represent and for the example that you continue to carry forward. Because it's through you and your families that we've heard the stories of bravery, of resiliency, and lifelong service. Thank you. We are each and every one of us better off because of you have been a part of our life. But it's especially an honor to be here with two very close friends who I very deeply respect. Mr. George Logothetis, and earlier with Mike Manitas. So I'll tell you, they and their families, they continue to teach, and they inspire me every day to be better. Just as they've had an impact on the Greek American community throughout. So I want to thank you first for your leadership, for the example that you both set, and truly for your friendship. Thank you very much. It was in this ceremony 2 years ago, just 2 short years ago, I accepted a similar honor on behalf of my father, who was a Greek immigrant. He supported the partisans during the war in Greece and later served in the United States Army. And by the way, my dad, who's 93, still sends his regards. He's still engaging where he's staying in the nursing home back in Wisconsin. But I'll tell you, it was easy to accept the honor on his behalf and the legacy that he had set. But I got to admit, I'm a little less comfortable accepting it now that the spotlight is shined on me. And you'll see the Army's no stranger to individual recognition or accolades. And you'll see a few of mine on the left side of the uniform. Those are individual awards. But for those who do serve throughout this formation that you see in the audience, they know it's not about personal recognition or a search for glory. Rather, we're driven by mission, by the well-being of the team, by the duty that calls and compels us, and serving with our brothers and sisters in arms. So I'd like to direct your attention to the right side of the uniform, this little row of 3. Unlike the others, these aren't individual awards. Rather, these are unit awards that they're bestowed upon the formations with whom I have served previously. And they truly are symbols of the teamwork, our perseverance through shared hardships and successes, and the trust. It's a reflection of the trust that we built together in that crucible of combat. And I'll say General Eisenhower, who's echoed throughout this memorial, he said it best on humility, that it must always be a portion of a man who receives acclaim that's been earned in the sacrifices of his subordinates and the blood of his followers. So I'll tell you, it is with humility that I accept this honor from the Washington Ochi Day Foundation, not as a matter of individual recognition, but as a unit award. It's on behalf of the warfighters with whom I have served, on behalf of those who did not return and made the ultimate sacrifice, and the soldiers today who stand ready to fight and win the wars of tomorrow. So thank you very much for this honor and distinction.